The Art of the Deal may be a title of Donald Trump's, one of his books, and something that he prides himself on is making deals with some of the worst people on the planet. But one person who has probably read that book and taken a lesson or two is the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, in the ongoing negotiations between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas about, uh, from Israel's perspective, releasing some of the hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th. Hamas has had no better friend in that ongoing negotiation than Joe Biden. Joe Biden constantly takes their side, pushes Netanyahu to make a deal under whatever circumstances or whatever terms Hamas agrees to or demands, which of course change by the day because they know that they have a friend in the White House. Welcome to the Daily Objective, day 217, I believe, of the war in Israel. I'm not sure about the day. Sorry, there have been too many days for this war to remember.
Months too
Uh,
many days.
yeah, and I'm joined by somebody who doesn't tweet hashtag not my president, but however he feels about it, Joe Biden is your president. James Valliant, are you proud?
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted by, and you make a very good point there. We can talk about Russia or Iran or China, etc., but you know who the world's best friend the Hamas has got? Joe Biden. You know why? It's not that he, like Iran, was directly funding Hamas. Still worse, he is sanctioning their ongoing existence, their ongoing violence. He is requiring that they exist. He's requiring that Israel, he's putting all his demands on Israel. Now consider, let's just review the bidding. Since November and December, Joe Biden has been issuing critical, wobbly statements about Israel in the entire thing. He called for regime change back in February, in effect, allowing Chuck Schumer, the senior senator in the United States Senate, to in effect call for regime change in not in Iran, but in Israel. But in Israel, in February, he said that Israel's planned attack was going, quote, over the top in Gaza. He has had all his criticism direct for the last 6 months have been directed at Israel, putting demands on Israel. They've got to provide more aid. They've got to do all this. It's all been one-sided. It has been repeatedly stabbing Israel in the back. And now consider, Rafa, right now, it is absolutely vile and disgusting, his position. He has said that and the latest news is still more disgusting. Arms shipments have been delayed. The United States Congress authorized. It is the law of the land now to provide military assistance right now to Israel in the course of a war, and he is delaying arms shipments, tanks, tank weapons, mortars, missiles, rockets. He's delaying weapons shipments that have been authorized by law under the United States, strong congressional approval of that. And our president is once more taking it on himself to ignore a law from Congress and to send a message that can only please Hamas, that can only be the best news Hamas ever got. So in one sense, a weak response by America is the best thing Hamas has got going for it. If America had been struck, now, to add insult to injury, I had to have kind of a throw up bucket next to me as I was listening to the President of the United States speaking yesterday at a Holocaust memorial event. And he said, we must never forget that Hamas were the ones who initiated all this on October 7th. Well, he is the commander in chief of forgetting about this. He is the one putting all the demands on Israel. He is the one threatening Israel. He's the one calling for regime change in Israel. He's putting no demands on Hamas. In fact, at the UN, you'll notice they decoupled even the return of the hostages from the demand for the ceasefire when we abstained at the United Nations. Time and time and time again, this president has completely betrayed Israel, stabbed them in the back, and then has the temerity yesterday to say out loud with his own mouth, we must never forget Hamas caused all this on October 7th. What a disgusting liar and hypocrite. Add to that, he said, we must allow properly denouncing, mind you, properly denouncing the anti-Semitism that's breaking out on university campuses. He said we must allow no safe harbor for anti-Semitism, when that is precisely what he's been doing for 6 months. He gave no statement on the universities until just lately. He has done nothing about it. He has, in effect, sanctioned it with his silence and his comments about Israel being over the top in their response to Hamas. It is utter betrayal. But of course, as we've said before, it's all a question of domestic politics. And in this score, Ayn Rand has a rather appropriate quote. She was famously asked by the publishers of Atlas Shrugged if she could summarize her philosophy while standing on one foot. And part of her answer read as follows, quote, philosophy cannot be discussed while standing on one foot, nor while standing on 2 feet on both sides of every fence. This last is the predominant philosophical position today, particularly in the field of politics. President Joe Biden wants to have his foot on both sides of this fence, which shows that he has a position that is, in effect, worse than any you might imagine, because it's going to perpetuate. While he denounces Hamas on October 7th, he is, in effect, requiring Israel to allow Hamas to survive in Rafah, and he's in effect demanding that there be more October 7th ad infinitum into the future. He is guaranteeing. Of course, to back up even further, Joe Biden himself has caused October 7th. Joe Biden played a critical causal role in the atrocities of October 7th. He has been appeasing Iran. He has been sending them billions. He has been negotiating with them. He ignored attacks from Iranian proxies on US bases. He ignored Iranian proxies stopping international shipping in the Red Sea. He has been appeasing Iran, who has been underwriting and funding Hezbollah and Hamas for decades now. 90 to 100% of their money comes from Iran, and he has been kissing the ass of Iran since he's been president, making sure that they get billions in oil revenue from China when he could have prevented that. No, Joe Biden, you are the one who is giving quarter to anti-Semitism. Joe Biden, you are the one forgetting that Hamas started October 7th. You are the one guaranteeing more October 7ths. That's what I would.
One of the things that anti-Semites love to do the most is accuse Israel of weaponizing the Holocaust when it compares the more successful attempt at what Hamas is attempting to do that was done by the Germans back when Jews were unarmed. And it's it's interesting that so many of these people also tell Jews to go back to Poland, and of course in Poland a couple of days ago there was the March for the Living in Auschwitz, and pro-Hamas protesters were there as well. When they say go back to Poland, they mean go back to Auschwitz. That's what they mean. They don't mean go back and live a comfortable life in Warsaw. And
yeah, we all remember what the Nazis did in Poland, one of the most horrific atrocities in human history. And
yeah,
these
for Joe Biden,
the nerve to go out there. It makes Joe me Biden, sick. I get so angry. It would be hard for me to even express my position on that.
And for Joe Biden to actively side with Hamas. So there was a report a few days ago that what was going on in Rafah, the small military operation that the IDF has started there, was what Biden said Israel can do. You do a small operation there, and then you do a deal. Now, to say something like that again is to tell the other side, if you're trying to negotiate what is going to be your the position at the end, and the position at the end is whatever the other side wants. That is the position. If the demand is for Netanyahu to make a deal no matter what. And again, any deal is capitulation. As somebody pointed out to me, I should stop saying deal and start saying capitulation.
Capitulation and Israeli and American surrender is what it would be.
Yeah, but this remains the demand by Joe Biden. And look, we're going to see what to what extent this Rafah operation continues. But the very idea that any pressure on this should be by America as Israel's ally on Israel is, of course, that is in effect taking the side of Hamas. And I want to just quickly, Paul says in the chat, I don't listen to Biden, Harris, Sunak, Cameron, etc. The thing is, they make decisions. So not listening to them, for your own mental well-being, just not hearing what comes out of their mouth, I can understand that. But just so you know, it is up to them, and we need to. So I do think we need to pay attention to these horrible people and what it is that they're doing to Israel and to the West's position
He
on.
has been Joe Biden and leaders in the West, by the way, including Sunak and Lord Cameron. What we've done is we've simply encouraged the ongoing perpetuation of this violence. That we have given them. How many times has Joe Biden said, "Hamas, just wait a little longer"? And Lifeline is coming, Hamas. Lifeline is coming, Hamas. When he insists, and disgusting, as you point out, it appears that Netanyahu is doing a very limited operation in Rafah. If it has anything to do with the fact that Biden has said only a limited operation will be tolerated, it disgusts me. Netanyahu is subject to criticism, it seems to me, just in accepting it. But then again, America is withholding, at least delaying, certain arms shipments to Israel that have been authorized by the United States Congress. No, time and time again, he's been throwing lifelines to Hamas, in effect telling them, just wait a little longer, just wait a little longer. He is insisting that Hamas survive by not doing a full-scale operation in Rafah, even to the extent that a full-scale operation in Rafah could destroy the remaining brigades of Hamas. He's insisting Hamas continue. Biden is insisting that we have more October 7th. All this talk about ceasefire, and consider the hostages in effect. Joe Biden has been betraying those hostages. How long have they been in there? I mean, we've just discussed 200 and how many days have they been tortured and raped? And how many of them are still alive? I know a few were released early on, but what percentage of these hostages are already dead? And for how many months have they been raped and tortured? And no, but we're going to drag this out instead of taking care of it, as we said months ago, to what? The slow torture and continued death of the remaining hostages? As if that were the excuse? No, he has done the hostages no favor. In fact, he's ensured the taking of more hostages, the more mutilations, more atrocities. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you. It's disgusting.
And remember the terms agreed to by Hamas a couple of days ago, which were terms offered by Egypt, and which the U.S. of course played right into and said, yeah, well, we now have a deal. Included the release of 33 hostages, and no commitment to whether they're going to be dead or alive. That's another thing. So
unbelievable. It's dead bodies. And Admiral Kirby yesterday from the White House, speaking for the President of the United States, was asked, aren't you being played by Hamas? They say, oh yeah, now we accept and it's really no change. And yet you're willing to give them and you know what Admiral Kirby's answer was? I can't answer that if I can't get inside the head of the leader of Hamas. What? But so what you're saying is we're going to play Hamas's game, even if they are just toying with us and bullshitting us. In other words, he's happy to be toyed with by Hamas and to be jerked around in that fashion. It is absolutely disgusting. We are being played by Hamas every time with these quote negotiations, which tells us why we should never negotiate with animals like this in the first place.
Yeah, Bonnie early on said about Biden, he's wobbly physically, mentally, and morally, and
the worst of it is the third. The worst of it is the third. He could have smart people around him, but it's the so-called, the ones who are a little more on the ball mentally, who are around him, who are equally responsible. He's the president of the United States. He's got a big staff, It isn't just his dementia, which might well be setting in, but we're talking about an entire staff at the White House who are giving aid and comfort to the most evil forces in the world today. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, and then Bonnie says he's handing the election to Trump, which is Biden's greatest treason. Also, thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Yeah, it's it makes you wonder. So one of the things I'm seeing now, and again, I don't know to what extent, like I've already lost any hope with these people, but Israel seems to not be okay with the way Biden is openly siding with Hamas in these negotiations. There seems to be some pushback. Is this the moment that Israel actually stands up for itself? And if it actually does stand up for itself, what it has to do as part of that is not just say no to the deal, but also say and actually act in Rafah with great military force and not just minor operations in the areas where there are no or few terrorists. So yeah, that'll be
Netanyahu is also on the hook. If we do not smash the remaining brigades of Hamas that he tells me are still in Rafah, he is allowing Hamas to survive. He is ensuring and guaranteeing more October 7th. But if it's at all coming from the pressure of his one, I'm going to put this in scare quotes, ally, the United States, then the United States should be ashamed of itself for the next 1,000 years. It's absolutely despicable.
yeah. Victoria says Hamas will give you dead bodies first because they will get more for the living. Look, if they get what they want to get for dead bodies, they could kill the remaining hostages, on their way back. Why not?
Why not?
What kind of deal is this that you say, well, it's there's equal value. I know for Israel, getting dead bodies back is important for Jewish burial. I oppose any hostage deals. I, of course, oppose ones where you release actual terrorists who will murder future Israelis for people who are already dead. But yeah, the idea that there could be a deal for dead bodies is
Disgusting.
shocking, and again is what they knew in the first place, that they are playing Israel and Israel's so-called allies when they took these hostages, and yeah, Israel is playing into their hands. And again, I want to see what is coming next, because if Israel does stand up for itself and does go into Rafah, it's I don't know if Biden will how he will react, because if he will also back up his threats against Israel, there will be opposition. In America, there are still many people who support Israel, and that'll make things interesting, especially with the November election coming up with
You see, he's got to have his foot on both sides of this fence here. More Americans and far more Americans support Israel here than support Hamas. And yet the loud ones on college campuses or disrupting the Metropolitan Museum's annual gala, they had that the other day, and they disrupted that as well on Fifth Avenue in Central Park, desecrating war memorials, by the way, in the process. But you'll notice that when it's the Park Avenue set and a bunch of celebrities, the New York police are there to make sure they get protected. When it's universities, boy, they get carte blanche to, do whatever they want.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with the election, which of course we will be talking about a lot on this channel, is that if you want to say pro-Israel candidate is obviously not Biden, but not Trump either. It's Kennedy, who I think might overall be worse than Biden and Trump. But to what extent will that matter to people who actually want to vote? Kennedy's already polling at like 15% last time I checked. And if people actually see this as big a problem for America as it is, throwing Israel under the bus, what's going to happen there? Is Kennedy going to become a serious candidate?
Well, he's certainly going to be a major factor, and you can understand in theory why, because of course the American people are disgusted with both of the major options they have, Biden and Trump, and properly so. And I think most of Kennedy's support comes from that disgust, not from his wacky environmentalist ideas or some of his strange ideas on vaccines, which prevent me from being able to support him. So none of the major candidates look attractive to me at this moment. And let me suggest, though, that Kennedy's popularity and why he's such a strong third party candidate right now is that the American people are simply disgusted with the two main options.
Yeah, Akira says Kennedy is definitely the worst. A lot of conservatives and libertarians love him. Yeah, that should tell
Yeah,
you that should
that's
tell you a lot. But
scary.
the thing is, I remember Kennedy, from decades ago as an environmental, like a crazy environmentalist campaigner of the absolute worst kind. How it is that all these other people, I don't understand. I don't understand the people with these, like broad church or big tent approach. You know,
I can't
James.
look at it this way. I'm not going to comfortably sit under his tent or Trump's or even Biden's at this point. So I may be controversial within the objectivist world, but I'm so revolted by what Biden has done, and Israel is just one of the grossest examples of it, that I don't think I could vote for any of the three major candidates as it stands right now. I'm so disgusted with all of them.
Well, the one good thing to come out of it is the winner of the comment of the day is Jesse. Yeah, comment of the day is voted on always unanimously with because it's only me voting. Jesse says the other option is Jill freaking Stein. Are they kidding? I'm writing in Senator Joe McCarthy this year.
Well, my wife has been known to ride in Mickey Mouse. So, but Joe McCarthy, as unpleasant a senator as he was 60 years ago, he would make probably the most attractive candidate right now. That's for sure.
If he was running against these three,
Yeah.
I would vote for him. So.
Yes.
All right. James, any thoughts on like what we can like look for any positive outcome that might be of this? We talked about maybe Israel will say, okay, screw it, we're going into Rafah. We have no actual friends in this, and we're gonna do what we have to do. Which you would think is a likely or a plausible scenario if Netanyahu wasn't the prime minister. Uh, is there, yeah, anything in American politics that might this might shake up?
Well, the only silver lining I find in all of this disgusting mess is that there are many Americans waking up to Joe Biden, and there are many Americans waking up to university, with the evil ideas being taught on university campuses, the administrators and the professors of these university campuses, a lot of Jewish voters who've been loyal to the Democrats rather blindly, maybe waking up, a lot of Christian and secular voters who've been supporters of Israel, maybe waking up on this issue, morally speaking, but that's the only silver lining I can find. It's not as though the Republicans are in principle any better. I mean, honest to God, Donald Trump, I fear would make, like you just pointed out in the beginning, he loves dictators. If it's a North Korean dictator or Chinese dictator like Xi, they're his best buddies. He'll write them love letters. And so I can only expect that he's eager to cut a deal with whoever in Qatar or whoever is negotiating for the terrorists when he comes in. So I don't see Donald Trump as being, in principle, any better than Biden, although the Democrats, in their disgusting appeasement of Iran, have been particularly vile and have actually helped fund that terrorism. So there's no pretty options here. All I can think is that there's a good effect on the American people in seeing this repulsive spectacle, and that maybe more thoughtful people will develop a more thoughtful position about it.
Christelle says Blinken thumbs down, just like Biden. I feel sorry for the US. Blinken, I keep remembering, and I don't remember the exact quote, but right after October 7th, he made this speech. I think it may have been in Israel when he visited, saying, Israel could fight this war alone if they had to, but as long as America is around, they won't have to. That obviously didn't last months, and now Israel, if it wants to fight this war, will have to fight it alone. Biden is making it very clear. And yeah, as much as I am not a fan of any of the three front runners, and I don't know enough about the other candidates who have no chance of winning. Um,
Well, the
yeah,
Libertarian, the Green, Professor West, all the other minor third party candidates all have vile positions on Israel. Really do.
well,
Dave Smith, for example, just one of these Libertarian candidates, he's an outright anti Semite from what I can tell on X. So the Libertarians and these radical lefties, they're still worse. All of them.
that's not a surprise. And yeah, if if I was an advisor to Trump or Kennedy, first of all, I'd say, why the hell am I an advisor to them and quit? But if I didn't do that, I would say, hey, maybe make this one of your main positions to be on Israel's side. Maybe it'll work. We heard from Trump that the whole wall with Mexico idea, he only did it because he threw it out there in a rally and people cheered. So see if this works. Again, I don't know if how much it will work with some of his fans, but anyway, some people who definitely do support Israel are the people who are joining us in the coming days. So we have interviews on the next two episodes of the Daily Objective. James, tomorrow you will be interviewing Stephen Silverman, the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. We've been using their stuff for the past 7 months. It's only right that we have somebody from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism on this channel. So looking forward to that. And then on Friday, I will be back and I will be interviewing Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch. Yeah, I've been following his work for probably 20 years or so. And yeah, he knows the problem. He does not call it a religion of peace. And by the way,
Uh,
Islam is also the topic of today's episode of the reality show, the American rights love affair with Islam. So yeah, we're
Ooh,
getting to the
boy,
root of
I'll
the
be
problem.
covering Biden. You all, in just a few minutes, are going to be covering the other side of it. There is some ugly anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head on the right these days. Don't miss any of this programming, folks. If you think this programming is valuable, if you think, like I do, we're providing the best, hardest hitting coverage on this question, become a supporting paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK. We are the most consistent voice out there. And by views, the most viewed objectivist content on YouTube. So please give us your support. Hit like, subscribe, share. Please, it really does make a difference. For what little good we're doing good, and we are the best, most consistent voice out there. Imagine a world without us. Please consider becoming.
And
We've
I
got
think I think
content,
some of our enemies would love to imagine that world, but we're not going to let that happen.
right?
Thanks, James. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned. The reality show starts in 2 minutes.